Leveraging technology to create lifetime customer relationships. Tyler Craig, Chief Revenue Officer, Bluestream. I can't remember how we connected, Tyler, but been a great asset. I know you've been a supporter of ours for quite a while, and you've got a great message and, again, business drivers. So Tyler, welcome to the stage. Appreciate you being here, and thanks for your support of the organization and our members.
Bill, appreciate it. How did we get in touch with one another? I think it was actually Jack from Holistic Pet Organics first got us in touch with one another. So been a privilege to be a part of the organization for just a little under a year now. So very appreciative of the opportunity to speak for the first time at this event, our first time attending the event on behalf of Bluestream and for myself. Just really excited to be here. And what I've come to realize in the last 24 or 48 hours more than I already saw before was the power of this organization, the level of camaraderie amongst its members. So I know I haven't gotten a chance to meet everybody yet. If I haven't met you, I'm at a booth somewhere behind this wall over here, so I'd love to chat with you afterwards. So as Bill mentioned, I'm here to talk about leveraging technology to create lifetime customer relationships. Today we face a very fragmented and commoditized market, all of us together, which makes it more important than ever to establish these meaningful and personal relationships that can really create a first-time customer into a repeat customer into a loyal customer for life, creating an experience that's designed to create success for your customers through your product. Retention, revenue, referrals, these are the lifeblood of any organization. And we at Bluestream believe that those are all very dependent on the very first experience that your customer has with your product. So today we're going to explore how to create the true lifetime product-based connections with your customers. I guess, but first a little bit more about me. I probably should have switched the order of these slides. So I was glad to see yesterday everybody else puts their dogs on their slides. So here you see on the right side, I've got one of them now, unfortunately. We lost Murphy this past October, but 2 rat terriers. We still have Bailey there in the lower corner. She's a 17-year-old rat terrier, so I'm assuming everybody in this audience makes some sort of product that I've used or need to use for a 17-year-old rat terrier. She's probably tried it, one of the benefits of my role with Bluestream and working with the NASC and the pet industry. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you see Reese over there on the left side. He's almost a year old now, so he is Husky, Lab, Pyrenees Beagle, German Shepherd, and Pit Bull. So a rescue that we took in about a year ago, and those 2 less furry creatures are my daughters, 10 and 6. So we live in New Hampshire, about an hour outside of Boston. So that's my passion. You see, I love talking about baseball as well. Go Cubs if anybody's from the Chicago area. Got one, there we go. 5-game losing streak, we gotta fix that, we will. And more importantly, tying this back to business now, I have a passion for technology and software and how it can enhance our daily lives, both personally and professionally. So that's what I've done for the last 15 years with a number of different startups that ultimately have been acquired by companies like Oracle and the Fortune 100. So a passion for technology and how it helps us in our personal lives and how it can help connect companies to their customers. So a quick show of hands. How many in here feel like they have a sound strategy with communicating with your customers after they purchase your product? A couple, that's good. So I'm excited to explore a little bit more about how we do that. And for the hands that were not raised, it looks like a prime opportunity to have a further conversation later today. So let's look at the positioning for developing these lifetime customer relationships. We're going to assume that everybody makes a great product. You've created a fantastic product for a very specific reason. You've created your product with a very particular voice in mind. But the reality is that just having a great product isn't good enough anymore. And that's for a number of reasons. One, the landscape has changed. The landscape is changing by the day. There's far less time or no time for thoughtfulness with customers, for personalization with customers, the ability to educate your customers. A lot of this is because the fragmentation, the third parties involved, selling a product through a third party like Amazon or Chewy has removed that direct connection to your customer, the ability to truly engage with them, to ask questions, to provide guidance. So it's a very disconnected and noisy environment. So how can we cut through this black hole of communication is a phrase that I like to use a lot. How do we cut through that? Technology. It exists to do that, but it's also changing very rapidly and very difficult to keep up with. So how can you use technology, overlay that on top of the voice for your product that you've created, while incorporating the changing landscape to develop these lifetime customer relationships? So at Bluestream, we think a lot about data gaps in data. What is your customer really thinking? It's not just that email that you sent them a few weeks after they purchased your product asking for a review. What happens in that time period? You can use technology to discover what your customer is really thinking. Knowledge of your customer, not just the products that they've purchased, or the zip code in which they live, or the frequency at which they purchase your product. You need to know their likes, their dislikes, their preferences, specific attributes of their pets, specific attributes of the pet owner themselves. Being able to support all of those attributes individually, but also how they relate with one another. That's what technology can do for you. So I would encourage everybody in this room and everybody outside of this room to think about what's needed to really drive into the future to develop meaningful customer relationships. And you can do that by thinking about it through the lens of your product, the landscape in which it sits, and how technology is leveraged to solve for that. So today, this is a picture of what traditional marketing might look like. You have your Klaviyo's, MailChimp, Zendesk, Constant Contact, might be using some social media like Instagram or Facebook, maybe Google Ads. I should probably have TikTok up here, but I'm proud to say I've never had a TikTok account and probably never will. Majority? There we go. So, quick show of hands here. How many of you are using at least one technology like this? How many are using 2 of these technologies? How many are using 3 or more of these technologies? That's the answer I was looking for. Great. So, is that omni-channel? It is, but are those different solutions working symbiotically with one another to enhance your relationship with your customer? Probably not. Are they two-way? SMS, email, you can send an email, you can send a promotional text message. A customer can technically reply back to those. Is that real two-way communication? If you are getting a response, are you using that data somewhere? Probably not. So is it technically two-way? Yes, but we would argue that it's not really. And when you look a little bit more at social media or SMS marketing tools or email, there's some levels of personalization that can exist within those. You can use my name, you can use my pet's name, but that's typically about where it stops. So it might be personalized, but not to the degree at which it could be. It's only scratching the surface. A couple of stats, I didn't have a chance to put these in the deck because I just submitted a few weeks ago, but when you think about specific technologies with engaging with your customer, looking at SMS versus email for a moment, a business communicating with its customer via SMS, that text message is 35 times more likely to be read than an email. It's 4.5 times more likely to be replied to than an email. And 70% of SMS text messages sent between businesses and their customers are read within the first 60 seconds of that message being sent. So, as an example of how to use that, instead of your existing CRM to send a welcome email or an email asking for a review 3 weeks after purchase that probably goes into a spam folder, ask questions, provide guidance. Ask your customers if they have any questions about the product itself. It's these little things that can set you apart as a company and set the stage for a really meaningful owner's journey that a lot of companies aren't contemplating for today. So with technology, you can go beyond where you are with knowledge of your customer right now to know them, to really, really know your customer. A stat from Salesforce, 66% of consumers expect you, the brand, to know them on an individual and personalized level. Not just a name, not just a pet's name, but 2 out of 3 consumers want you to know them on an individual and personal level. Technology can do that. Now the how, the tougher part, to really leverage these, to make them meaningful. So building on that traditional backdrop of email marketing, promotional SMS, social media, thinking through a few areas like AI and automation. And AI is a dangerous topic to get into. We could probably take an hour on that. It's a very, very nebulous term. If you ask 100 people the definition of artificial intelligence, I guarantee you would get 100 different responses. So When you think about how Bluestream leverages AI, we're using it for the deployment of new customers. So as we talk to somebody, we learn about the product, there's instruction guides for it, there's ingredients, there's information about a product. We use AI to ingest a lot of that information to create what we call a blueprint, the messaging journey for a customer. That's how we leverage it. It's not a chatbot on a website that's a robot generating a response. We believe that's a lazy way of using AI. So knowing what AI and automation mean in the context of your business is important. Automation for us, it's probably no different than it is for you. We're using it for top of funnel to fill leads for new customers. Two-way communications. We talked about this a bit. I'll probably come back to it, but it's not just a coupon or a promotion. It's bi-directional. It's contextual. It's asking questions and then using those answers for subsequent follow-up in a really personalized way. And then using those answers to benchmark that specific customer over a period of time. So in the first month, they were a certain level of happiness with your product. 6 months later, it was a different number. So using technology to track those trends is possible through a true two-way communication channel. Consumers need help. They want you to develop a rapport and a trust with them. Those are the types of things that lead to positive reviews and the retention of a customer. So being proactive with their needs can be done through technology, knowing what they're going to need help with before your customer even knows that they need help. Be proactive, anticipating the needs. And lastly, and I think probably the most important point of this slide, is leading with your product, not a promotion. Again, you've developed a great product. You've created it with a specific voice in mind. After somebody buys it the first time, don't send them a 50% off coupon for the next time or suggest to them something they might like. Lead with your product. Talk about the voice of your product. The last talk that we just listened to, if you've got sustainability as a factor of, I knew I was going to get distracted by the bird. There it is again. Somebody in here makes products for birds, right? They have to. So leading with your product. Don't sell yourself short on your product itself. So using technology to give that voice back to the product, asking questions, that's what technology can do. And again, we, the pet parent, that's what we want. 2 out of 3 of us want companies that we buy from to know us on a personal and individualized level. So taking one step further, we're going to now shift the mindset to after-sale product ownership. Marketplace yesterday, Nicole and John gave a very interesting conversation, which I thought was a great lead into today. And I don't know if John and Nicole are here. I would love to meet you. I haven't yet. They talked a lot about that pre-sale buyer's journey, everything that it takes from the first time that you reach out to a prospective customer to the time that they make a purchase. Now we're going to shift that to the after-sale experience. That pre-sale buyer's journey, it's hard. It's very expensive. Generally accepted numbers are that it's between 10 and 25 times more expensive to get a new customer than it is to retain an existing customer. So by dedicating a big share of the mind to the post-sale experience is very advantageous to your business. The post-sale experience, creating that is simple, but that doesn't mean that it's easy. So we kind of break it down into 6 steps at Bluestream. So firstly, establishing the connection with your customer via a meaningful channel like SMS. Second, knowing where your customers are most likely to fail. What stage of the usage cycle, what period of time, knowing that. Keeping your product front and center, which we've talked about. Keeping individuality in mind of your customer. Providing guidance for enjoyment and care of your product. And then obtaining that true voice of the customer, understanding what your customer is really thinking before, during, and after they use your product. Again, a great product isn't just good enough anymore. Here you see 77% of customers consider the customer experience to be as important as product quality, that according to Forbes. So to succeed in this generation, in this fragmented, commoditized market, the focus has to be on the product over promotion, post-sale versus pre-sale, all driven by technology. So we're going to dig into each one of those points just a little bit further. So first, establishing a connection. A connection requires a real two-way, bi-directional, proactive connection with your customer. Without that, you can't engage them in the after-sale experience. Here you see at the bottom, 66% of consumers, again, actually prefer SMS over email. So not just establishing the connection, but establishing it in a way that's going to be interacted with. And I didn't have a chance to add it, but Another stat, when you think about the generations, and I believe Stephanie prior to me that talked about Gen Z, Gen X, millennials, we all associate the younger generations with being more tech savvy, downloading all the apps, all of that. It's actually the baby boomer generation that is more likely to engage with a business via SMS than any other generation. So you've got the full spectrum of the pet parent, regardless of age, that's ready and waiting to be communicated with in this way, specifically around your product. Understanding where your customers are likely to fail and helping them succeed. You know, a welcome email, a generic SMS isn't good enough anymore. Could your customers be more successful? Probably always. Could you prevent more returns? Hopefully. Could customers enjoy your products more? That's the goal of this. That's what creates a lifelong brand champion. What are they thinking 30 days into the use, 60 days into the use of a product, 360 days into the use of a product? You know your product better than they do, better than we do. Understanding where they're likely to fail with that and to be proactive with them, really key to developing that lifelong customer relationship. So knowledge is power, and technology can help you grab that. This is at least the third time we've talked about shifting from promotion to product. That pre-sale buyer's journey, that's been perfected with discounts and promotion. Marketplace talked a lot about that yesterday. But what about that owner's journey from doorstep to delight? We talk a lot about that at Bluestream. So any conversation I have with a new prospective customer, I ask them, if you could be sitting on your customer's couch, sitting with them at the dining room table, in those very first moments they have your product in hand, those very first moments that they're administering your product to their pet, what would you want to say to them? What would you want to ask them? What would you want to have them ask you? It's those first moments that are key between doorstep and delight. And what most companies do today is you assume I received my product, you assumed I've started using it, and then I get that email to my spam folder 3 weeks later asking for a review, which is probably more of a reminder to use the product because I haven't used it yet. So solving that doorstep to delight problem is key. And remembering that you're not just making a sale, you're creating a product owner, which is the precursor to a lifelong brand champion. You're providing guidance, not a coupon. You're creating trust, not annoyance. You're creating a true feedback loop that's valuable not just for your marketing teams, but for your product team. Having the true voice of the customer is really helpful in future iterations of products. So we have folks on our platform that are using that voice of a customer, those feedback loops, to aid in other products to be developed or to iterate upon what they're already purchasing. So educating for success is the last point of that. Being able to, again, ask them, tell them what you want to at the right time. And through it all, individuality matters. People who buy your products, they have different comfort levels with your product. Is it their first time using any sort of supplement? Is it their 10th time? Is it their first time using your supplement or the 10th time? They live in different environments, different areas of the country. The impacts of a product on a pet are different, perhaps where I am in New Hampshire relative to here in Arizona. They have different goals in mind. They have different expectations set for what your product should do for them when you should be setting those expectations for them. And through it all, thinking about not just the pet's name and not just the owner's name, but what they're really thinking, the attributes of that particular pet and owner. So I think of one of the two largest pet retailers in the country. I get emails from them. They use my name. They use one of my pet's name, but that's about where it stops. So even the largest companies in the world haven't truly captured what individuality can mean with regard to your communications with your customer. It's all single direction. You're building and leveraging this individuality by asking contextual questions, knowing if they're using your product, asking them if they have questions for you. Do they like it? Is it meeting their expectations? Somebody buys, I know I did for the first time, I use a product for 17-year-old Bailey, and I expect her gait to be magically fixed in the first 24 hours. That's not reality, but it probably is for a lot of consumers, for most consumers, I would argue. So understanding and setting expectations at a personal and individual level matters. And as I mentioned earlier, I love technology. I believe that technology is our friend in our personal and professional lives. I believe that providing personalized guidance from a brand to a consumer can be our friend. So you now have that connection with your customer. You know where they're likely to fail. You're obsessed with your product, not just the promotion of the product, and you're keeping individuality in mind. At Bluestream, that's what we've done. We've structured our technology around those tenets, and we partner with companies to connect you through your customers in a very product-centric way. So we are your partner for creating digital product guidance for your customer. We are transforming product ownership. There's nobody that knows more about your product than you do. There's nobody that knows more than we do about the experience that your consumer can have with that product. So the quick 30-second shameless plug on us, which I probably already used 15 seconds of that, but that's what we do. We get started when your consumers need help. We use real-time unboxing data through that bi-directional communication strategy to help your customers love your products, which creates very near-term tangible benefits like better reviews, regardless of where the product was purchased from. We help customers use and enjoy your products to create an unprecedented level of retention and stickiness with your brand and your customer, which creates additional revenue opportunities down the line because you're developing rapport and trust before you're sending them a coupon or asking them to buy something else. And through this all, we're not just using these powerful consumer segmentation, we're creating really powerful profiles that are going to allow you to drive the right message to the right person at the right time. And through that all, you'll have additional data, additional revenue. You're going to have a happy customer, and I think probably the most important thing to all of us in this room, the furry friends in all of our lives are going to be happier through all of these efforts. And I want to leave you with I think we're going to end up a little bit short. I think I was originally scheduled for 5 o'clock yesterday, so I knew I was the only thing standing between you and a cocktail, so I knew I didn't want to go the full 30 minutes. A couple of stats that I didn't have a chance to put on here. So back to SMS versus email. 86% of businesses report higher engagement levels when leveraging SMS versus email. 86% higher engagement rates. Products with a review range between 4 and 4.5 stars have a 28% higher revenue. Reviews lower than 4 stars, perceived as lower quality. Reviews over 4.5 stars, perceived as purchased or artificial in some way. And I wanted to tie in a stat from yesterday, listening to Marketplace again, the third time I've referenced them, but she mentioned that 29% of your customers are looking to an alternative for your product. And so at Bluestream, we look at that as your churn number. We see industry average in the CPG category of about a 40% churn. So if you split the difference on that and walk through a quick scenario I put together, it's that 29% that you want to attack. So if you have a customer that spends on average $50 a month on your product, that's $600 a year. So that's a $200 annual churn problem on that particular customer. If you're adding 100 new customers a month, you extrapolate that, that's a $240,000 annual problem. That's $250,000 annual churn problem on a $50 monthly average annual spend at 100 new customers a month. So if you could recoup even half of that for pennies on the dollar, would you? If you could, from one customer, take half of that $200 back for a few bucks, would you? That's what technology can allow you to do. It's 7 minutes back for everybody. That's it. So if anybody has any questions, I'd love to answer any. Otherwise, I'll be on the other side of the wall for the rest of the day.
I just want to underpin a couple things that Tyler said. I've said for a long time, unless you know who your customer is, reach out, touch, communicate, and influence that customer, you never control the sale. You go through a veterinarian, you go through a distributor. If there's anybody separating you from the person who actually uses that product and is the decision maker, you don't control that sale. So understanding this, I think this is one of the most important presentations, truly believe, that we have at this meeting, because it truly is a key to business success, I think. The other thing for Tyler is, only people you see on this stage or at this meeting are the best of the best. And I really think you're in that category. We had a long conversation initially. Jack, you hooked us up initially because it had done great things for your business. And, again, pay it forward. And that's the way we got acquainted and came to have a conversation with Tyler. But anyway, I encourage you to talk to Bluestream, talk to Tyler. I think they can help you, and we really appreciate you being here.